Today we're going to be talking about moving to Florida and why you chose there. We're getting after that next. Hey everybody, my name is Craig Cunha. I'm a real estate agent here in Southwest Florida. And if you're looking for more information on what it's like to live, play, eat, sleep, and buy real estate on the Gulf Coast, then it's the channel for you. Go ahead and subscribe, hit the little bell to make sure you're notified every time, and leave a comment down below of something you want to know more about. I'm getting calls from people every day asking what it's like to move to Florida. If you've got a question you need an answer to, you need to call, text, or email, because I've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast. I told you last week I was going to start introducing new team members, and this is Andrew Meyer. He is my new right hand here in Southwest Florida, particularly Fort Myers. I live in Cape Coral, so we're going to take a little time today to talk about why we chose the areas we live in, what we like about it, what we don't like about it, and you know what? It might resonate with you on how that fits your lifestyle and what you're looking for. So what we're going to start with, what I love about Cape Coral. Now for me, my number one, the one thing I talk about often, you know this, is there are no HOAs in Cape Coral, meaning if I want a fuchsia colored house, I can have it. If I want to leave my grass a little longer than it should be, I can do it. Yeah, there's supposed to be a code enforcement that can kind of keep me from doing that, but at this point, it's not really in effect. So in essence, I don't have rules, I don't have regulations. I can kind of do what I want. What do you say about that in Fort Myers?
I love the structure. I love the security of having a gate. I love that we have someone coming doing the yard every day and keeping up with that. I love that we have the pool and all that I don't have to take care of.
Well, I could see the point. Okay, we're gonna give them that. Now, as far as water activities, outdoor activities, Cape Coral is the waterfront wonderland. We literally have more canals than anywhere in the world. So if I want to go boating or kayaking or paddleboarding, I can do it. Now, in many of our canals, I'm restricted with how fast I can go. So that's kind of difficult, but on the freshwater canals, I can jet ski, I can rip up and down, I can do all that stuff. On top of that, we've got a BMX park. We've got the Eagle Skate Park. We have the Sun Splash Park, so it's a water park. And yeah, I'm gonna mention Gator Mike's. It's kind of beat up and it's getting itself a little rundown, but there's a new restaurant coming in there, Mellow Mushroom, that's gonna help revitalize it. There's zip lines out there too, and some batting cages if you like to take your chances on those. Anyway, there's a lot to do. Tons of youth programs here too, that the kids will always have something to do. So very, very much a family structure in Cape Coral. So what do you got in Fort Myers?
Man, let me tell you. So what do you have? Do you have the yacht club for your beach? We have Fort Myers Beach. We have Sanibel. We have Captiva, all the restaurants. And then for activities, come on, we got Alva for biking. I mean, who doesn't love that? We have the water park for wakeboarding.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not giving up that I love what Cape Coral has to offer, but he's right. There's some cool stuff in Fort Myers, and you're going to like either the structure of being in a very built up area, or you're going to want a little bit more openness like out in Cape Coral. And we're going to talk more about that as we go through this video. But the next thing is the waterfront dining. One of the places that you've seen in a bunch of my videos, and everybody that comes says, hey man, I went where you told me to, and I loved it. The boathouse. Yes, you're on the water, your toes in the sand, you're up against the beach, you're watching the boats in and out. You've got live music. If you're there at night, you've got the lighting. That's one of the key places to go, with the little 300-yard beach that Andrew just kind of slammed a minute ago. Then you move over to Tarpon Point. There's a bunch of restaurants down there on a marina. Keep going west, you're out to Cape Harbor. Restaurants, shops, just a nice little ambiance out there. They run a bike night out there on Tuesday nights. So there's a lot of waterfront things. And I'm actually going to steal Matt Lachey too, because Matt Lachey has a bunch of waterfront restaurants in a little fishing village. So super quaint, super cool. You're not going to find it in many other places, but that's what I love about waterfront dining in Cape Coral. So what you got?
That's pretty good. I would say you guys have some pretty good restaurants. But we do in Fort Myers, we can compete with you a little bit. You start over in Alva. We have a boathouse as well on the river, brand new. They got a pool, great food, great dining, great views. You can waterfront, pull your boat up. And then if you move on downtown to Fort Myers, you got the Luminary now. That's there. That's nice. The nice ambiance walking around downtown. But if you really want to have that beachfront and the views and the smell of the ocean, I'll take you to Bimini Bait Shack. That's my spot. And then if you want to go down to Fort Myers Beach, you got Nervous Nellies, Shuckers. Should I go on?
No, he's absolutely right. That I will honestly say. I find myself for the waterfront dining, aside from the boathouse. Boathouse still. That's the go-to in Cape Coral. But I do find myself at all those places he's talking about often. You've seen so many of the videos with the views off the Luminary, at Oxbow, out on the beach, at Bimini Bait Shack. Yes, I love them all. So you will be crossing the bridge back and forth. We're going to talk about something you need to take care of if you're going to be doing that as well. But touche. I think you won that one. Okay, so growth is the next pro, but it's also a con. And I'll explain that real quick. The growth that we're experiencing here in Cape Coral is historical. I mean, literally, we're building at a pace. I don't know if this was even this way back in '06. But I will say that the growth is also problematic because the structures that are going in, the infrastructure of the city is not meant to handle the kind of traffic, the kind of flow that we're getting with everything. So we have a ton of new apartment buildings going in, a lot of new commercial stuff. We've got this Joe's Farmers Market or something like that. There's also another surgical and medical center going in. We've got some hotels coming in. The storage places, we've talked about this. These storage buildings are everywhere. So you've got these structures and all this stuff coming, and even the Burn Store Road project where they're widening that. So if I want to get up to the Punta Gorda Airport, I'm flying up there. I get up there super quick now. But that all comes at a cost, and that cost is we don't have the ways to build up the roadways and to move enough people in and out the way we used to. So you have to be patient. You have to really pay attention. We talked about running red lights. I saw it again today. Somebody was in a hurry. They ran through the grass, jumped the curb, flew up to the turn left, and when it turned red, they just started their turn. So they flew through that on a red. That's what happens here. Pay attention. It's going to get crazier, but that's just what it is right now. So how is it for growth when we talk about Fort Myers?
I mean, the same that you're seeing, especially over there. We have Amazon coming in, we have headquarters coming in and moving in. So we see in a lot of growth as well, in a lot of new buildings and condominiums coming in, being built. And it's the same. I mean, traffic's always crazy over there. But
what's this thing, Top Golf? Isn't that going in on like one of the busiest intersections in Fort Myers?
It is. It's taking forever. I will say, I drive by it all the time, and I can't wait for it to be finished to go check it out. But yes, it's coming on Colonial and the interstate, and that's a big hub for Fort Myers. And yes, it's a big populated area it should do well.
Well, and then the airport. We talked about that last week. You're going to have an expansion of the airport, so the growth there. I mean, you're seeing the craziness too. And
of course.
How's your infrastructure as far as being able to handle it? Do you see it very?
I think that we're a little bit ready for it compared to Cape Coral, but obviously not at this rate. I would say that we probably aren't ready for that.
Okay. Well, with all this growth, there's that thing called affordability. Well, affordability is kind of going out the window. To find anything that's affordable anymore seems to be a stretch. We can't seem to really get to pricing that's going to fit into some of the incomes in the area. So affordability in Cape Coral, I do see it being a little bit better. Off-water properties are absolutely going to be a better price. Andrew kind of touched on it a minute ago that Fort Myers is a little bit more expensive. And I think that if you're looking for price only, that you're going to find a better opportunity in Cape Coral. But you might be giving up a little something too, only due to the fact that you don't have as many conveniences. We're going to talk about those in just a minute too, but what do you say about affordability for Fort Myers when you're comparing it to Cape Coral?
I mean, definitely, your money's not going to go as far as it is in Cape Coral for sure, but that comes with the location and just you're not crossing the bridge, you don't have the tolls to worry about, and I think that's what ties into it.
True. Well, and that's another thing we're going to be talking about in just a minute. Okay, I'm giving a bonus pro. This bonus pro is that in the Northwest in particular, some of the Northeast Cape, you have a lot of open space. If you're somebody that doesn't want to be rubbing elbows with your neighbors and you want to feel all those breezes, I think we talked about this. My mother's in the Northwest. She gets these crazy breezes on her lanai. It's because there's not so many homes and trees and all this foliage built up that blocks those breezes. So if you like that kind of thing, if you want space, maybe you can even pick up the lot next to you so that you can put a fence around the whole thing and put your boat and all your toys behind that fence. Because once you put it behind the fence, nobody can say anything to you. That's what I love about the open space in Cape Coral. Anything to say about that?
Oh, yes. So, for me personally, I'm not big on the open spaces. I don't want to see lots and lots and lots and then just a random house here and there. I love the community. I love the curb appeal. I love the order, and I love that I have neighbors right there, to socialize with. And that's what I really enjoy.
Okay, well, again, that's for you to decide. Do you want space not to have to socialize, or do you want to be a social bug? All right, before I go out of the pros for Cape Coral or Fort Myers, do you have anything else to interject as far as pros? Anything that you love about Fort Myers we haven't discussed yet? And I can give you my take on Cape Coral, but I just don't know. Do you have anything else to say about that?
I would say, all right, so for Fort Myers, I love to stay active. I'm in a bunch of different activities. I do kickball, flag football, volleyball, basketball, and all that stuff. And for me, I feel that there's a bigger outreach out there for Fort Myers in that group.
And that's for adult programs?
For adult programs.
Okay, so in essence, I think that Andrew's right about that because it's a sizable city and it does have many of those organizations set up for that. Cape Coral does have some adult programs as well, mostly softball. That's the one I see the most. There is a bit of flag football out in the Cape too, but I think overwhelmingly that Fort Myers is going to give a little bit more of that. So if you're looking for that adult active activities, then yeah, Fort Myers might get the nod on that. Okay, so we've been through the pros. I don't want to delve any deeper. We can do this on another video. I want to get to the cons because that's why half of you show up, is to find out what to hate or what to look out for and why would I maybe not want to be there. Well, my biggest one on the list for Cape Coral is the freaking tolls. Because guess what? Our $2 toll just went up to $5 if you don't have a transponder. Because there's some $3 administrative fee for somebody to pack an envelope at the end of the month with all the charges that you racked up because it's reading your license plate. So if you want the $2 charge, and actually it's probably closer to $1 because the transponder gives you a discount, get your transponder. If you've got a motorcycle, get a transponder for it. If you have multiple cars, get transponders for all of them. If you're caught moving your transponder from one vehicle to another, you can be fined for that. So get the transponder. It's inexpensive, it's easy to do, and it's going to save you from being charged through the backside. Anything to say about tolls?
Oh, I hate them. That's why I live in Fort Myers, that bridge.
Yeah, and you don't have tolls.
Well, unless we want to go to Sanibel or Captiva, but you're doing that for leisure because you want to. But no, not on a basis if you just want to go over to Fort Myers and if you have to work there.
Yeah, well, let's not talk about work and going across the bridges in the morning. That's a whole another video. All right, the next hate on the list for me is the lack of order. When I say lack of order, I mean code enforcement, particularly. Because this place, and Andrew we talked about this earlier, he backed this up. He used to live in Cape Coral, but he doesn't anymore. So that might tell you a little something, at least for him. I mean, he's a young dude. He wants to be in the mix of everything. But there used to be so much order in Cape Coral with code enforcement and making sure the house was kept up. You don't have a car on blocks in your yard. And I'm not saying that's common, but it won't get taken care of or removed unless the neighbor complains about it multiple times. Because there's nothing they can do other than continue to fine you or put a lien on your property. Well, if they do that, it doesn't mean anything to you until you're ready to move. So if you don't plan to ever move, you're going to leave your house in a box, as I've been told by other clients before, then that doesn't matter, does it? So the code enforcement could use a little bit of work, and I'm going to ask Andrew what he thinks about code enforcement.
Well, like I said before, I do like the curb appeal. I like the order. So I do like that. I do think that's something that's necessary just to keep everything in order, like we were saying. And when you don't have that, like you were just stating, We get people with their cars on blocks and engines everywhere, or the grass is going crazy. So for me, I do like that order.
So does Fort Myers have code enforcement, or do they need code enforcement?
So we don't need code enforcement. Most of the residential or the homes, I guess, we're all community based. So a lot of it's within a gated community, and they have their own enforcements, the HOA.
That makes sense. All right. Yeah, because Cape Coral, just to come back on that real quick, we've only got maybe a half a dozen communities here. They will have HOAs, so you can get that in Cape Coral, but it's just very limited. And when something's limited, supply and demand says you're paying more for it. So if you want that order in Cape Coral, you're going to pay for it. Okay, so another massive hate for me is that you can't find everything you want in Cape Coral. You will not find a Costco, a Best Buy, a Dick's Sporting Goods, a Bass Pro Shop. In fact, most shopping is so limited that people end up crossing that bridge we just talked about and paying tolls to be able to go down to Miramar Outlets, to go over to Gulf Coast Town Center, to go even to the Edison Mall. I mean, Edison Mall? The closest thing we have to that is the Coralwood Plaza, which we won't talk about that.
No.
Anyway, that is one of my big disappointments, is that we don't have enough out here yet to keep us on this side. So you will be on the bridges, you will be paying tolls, so get that darn transponder. Tell me what you think about living in Fort Myers and that part of it.
Well, so go back to your point. As a kid, we always had to go across the bridge to go to the malls and stuff like that. So it was almost like an excitement, like we knew the weekend was coming. We're gonna get to go over to Fort Myers and field trip, and go to those places. But also, I would say though, there's also a caveat to that, because the charm of Cape Coral is you guys don't have that. So you don't have people coming in and busting up the roads and all that traffic that's what we have. So we have the convenience of those amenities, but
True.
we have people coming over, and that's where our traffic comes from.
Okay, well, that's definitely a fair point. Okay, another disappointment for Cape Coral is that it can feel very sparse at times, especially in the northwest and northeast, like we talked about. The vacant space, it is great for somebody that wants the space and to have to be able to stretch out a little bit. But oh my gosh, when you talk about no palm trees or very few, and you talk about having a couple like dying bushes in your yard, or you go up there during the wintertime, we don't get a lot of rain and everything's brown and dry and dead, it's not very appealing. Do you have that in Fort Myers?
No, we don't have that problem. But I will say South Cape. So like, if you split Cape up in north and south,
yeah, the
South Cape, if you were stayed towards that end, you won't have that problem.
True. So something to keep in mind when it is built up already, especially down in Unit 64 in Cape Coral. That's very true. Down in all the Gulf access neighborhoods, you will find them built up. There will be some royal palms. You've probably seen some videos, some clips in the videos earlier that did show that kind of stuff. He's right. Absolutely. Parts of the Cape are like that, but that's the part I still hate. It doesn't change it. It's still there. But Fort Myers doesn't have that. So I guess that's a win for them. Okay, so I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. The fact that all these apartment buildings and storage buildings are coming in, it's actually a negative. I know we need storage. I know we need places to live, but to have these things springing up in the middle of a residential neighborhood, I mean, Andrew would agree with the fact that Cape Coral is residential. It's not meant to be city-like Fort Myers. But when you start throwing up 4- and 5-story buildings in the middle of a residential neighborhood, that's getting a little ridiculous. But that's what we're experiencing now. So if you don't want to see that kind of stuff, I don't even know where to tell you to go anymore, because Fort Myers was built on the premise of being a city, and now Cape Coral is pushing these buildings out left and right. So what's going on in Fort Myers that have anything to do with that? No big projects that are problematic?
Nothing like that. I would say more just the industrial side, commercial. We got those, like I was saying before, the Amazons coming in and the commercial buildings for office space and stuff like that. But those don't really touch in the residential areas. Those are more towards the commercial and industrial areas of Fort Myers.
So they stay separated completely?
Correct.
Okay, so that's the difference, where it can be integrated in Cape Coral, like everything's mixed together, which I showed you some other mixed-use neighborhoods before where they have duplexes with commercial buildings with residential homes. Yeah, so we have mixed use. There's not so much of that in Fort Myers. And the bonus for the stinkiest things, and yeah, that word was used purposefully here, for Cape Coral is the freaking well water and the sulfur smell. It is horrid at times. I mean, it's
awful.
It's just wrong. But it's one of the things we deal with. And if you don't want to have it, there is a fix. A whole home reverse osmosis system will help with that. If you don't have that though, just be prepared. You do a load or two of laundry, do a little extra running of the water in the house, you just can't avoid it. Your home is going to smell like hard-boiled eggs. And I'm going to say Fort Myers? No?
Yeah, we don't have that problem. And that's one of the main reasons that I live in Fort Myers is that well water. I grew up on it, and it was rough.
Yeah. I was on it previously, too. And my mother's still on it, so God bless her. But that's my last con for this video. Do you have any other cons you want to mention for Fort Myers?
No, Fort Myers is great.
So is Cape Coral. So don't knock it because of that last con or any of the other cons. Everything in Florida is awesome, and you will find a place for yourself if that's what you really want to do. But if you have any other questions about what it's like to live in Florida, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, any of those places, check out one of these other 2 videos. And if you've got any questions for us in particular, you've got to call, text, or email because we've got your back when moving to the Gulf Coast.